This is the Team Objection podcast for March 11th, 2021, episode 474. I don't have a Switch, even though this episode's coming out on my birthday.
Well, you do have a Switch.
It's like right over there.
I also have a purple and orange Switch, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
It tells you about the Suns fandom. You might be aware of this if you've watched the show at any point in the last, 10 years.
Maybe.
But we're not going to talk about the Suns today.
Not today.
That's not why you tuned in. You tuned in today for our hot takes.
For the fact that it's Chris's birthday.
And we have plenty of hot takes for you today.
He's my age now.
I have what is at best a warm take.
I have a fairly hot take.
I have a fairly hot take. I mean, it's actually pretty lukewarm.
It's always lukewarm.
Well, I'm just not an interesting guy. Like,
That's
what do you expect?
your nickname. It's like vanilla and like lukewarm and like
My parents should have named me Luke for lukewarm.
Oh, I get it.
Luke Robinson.
Yeah.
It almost is too unique though.
That sounds.
Dave is about the most vanilla you can get.
I mean, the thing is, if you try to look, people say that you want to Google your own name to see if like anything comes up. I can't because too many results come up and too many things that are not me come up.
Yeah.
You want to start with mine since it's the one we've had for a few weeks and has quickly been losing steam week
Dave
over
is
week?
absolutely dying to hear it.
I have a hot take.
Okay.
Here's a hot take.
I've remembered the segment format, so that's
Well
important.
done.
I'm very happy.
Episodic shows like WandaVision should be the norm and not the exception. When WandaVision was about 2 to 3 episodes in, because of its relatively slow beginning as they were working through the earliest eras and not really revealing a whole lot of what the hell was going on, just kind of being like, I don't know, but they're here and they're living a family life. The main response I saw on Twitter was basically like, this is boring. It should have just been a movie instead. I don't want to have to wait till next week. I'd rather binge everything all at once. And my response to that is, anybody who thinks that should be the standard, I'm not saying it shouldn't ever exist, but if you think that binge watching should be the standard, you're fucking wrong.
So you're meaning episodic is in like one release a week?
Yes, that's fine.
I see.
I think that should be the way things are.
Yeah.
I think when shows are dumped on the platform all at once, they don't gain any traction.
I
And
agree.
one main example, Cobra Kai.
Explain that one for those who
Season 3 dropped at the first, I think, right at the start of the year, and all the episodes were available at once. And hey, it was great in a sense. Like, you could kind of go through them at your own pace. We watched them relatively quickly. We were watching them in batches, probably finished it in like, I don't know, a week and a half, 2 weeks. I've already kind of forgotten a lot of it. It's not like it wasn't good or there aren't moments that didn't resonate, but there was no anticipation. There was no build. And especially with a show like WandaVision, where there was these mysteries about what was going on, there was these kind of cliffhangers at the end where they left you wanting more the next week. I just feel like we've forgotten how to watch television because now people are like, well, I just want to watch them all at once. It's like when you do that, you miss out on all the build. It's just, there's no, like, think about the endings of episodes of Cobra Kai in the case of Shaun, who's watched it, where something happened at the end, like Chosen showing back up, spoiler, would have been at least a little bit more meaningful if it wasn't like, all right, well, that was kind of interesting. Next episode.
Well, I'll tell you what. It was more meaningful to me because that was the last episode that we happened to watch that night.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of to your point, the build-up and the wait helped. And you can argue, well, maybe that's what we need is like if you release it all at once. If you want to go at a slow pace, you can. And then people who want to binge it, they can. It's not how it works.
I think like Chris said, it has a place. I think something like Stranger Things actually works really well released all at once because usually was released around Halloween time in October, kind of fall, and so it kind of fits the season, the time in which you watch it. But I will say I agree with you that I don't think it should be the standard release everything at once. Something like Breaking Bad, something like Better Call Saul, those types of shows are so much better having the wait, the buildup of the week, kind of reminding yourself, okay, this is what happened last week. Oh man, this is going to build on it. Like, I like that anticipation. And I think the fact that everyone can talk about it and it can kind of be like, look, here's Sunday night, you're going to watch this and then talk about it and what you think's going to happen as opposed to, oh, no spoilers, I've only watched episode 5. Like, that's the thing I hate the most.
I actually disagree with you, Dave.
Oh, no.
Hold on to your butt if you can believe it.
Who saw this coming?
No, so I agree with you on the Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, and all of that. But even on Stranger Things, I think they designed their show where a lot of the endings are like big cliffhangers, and it's instantly gratifying, but long term, I think it hurts a little bit because it's like having a plot development that you resolve like 2 minutes later in a plot. there's a reason they do it on a cliffhanger, and yeah, I guess it's to get you to do the next episode, but it's supposed to build. You're supposed to theorize. You're supposed to wonder what's happening next. And when you can immediately hit play and just get that, it makes a less impactful experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe this is just how we grew up watching TV and why we maybe prefer it this way. Because we grew up obviously having to wait every week. But we also grew up watching a lot of episodic shows that didn't have strong continuity. It was kind of loose continuity. It's like you could just jump into any episode and watch it. Something like The Simpsons,
So
for
you
example.
because they want to get syndicated.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
So it's I don't know. It's just a different time of TV. It's crazy to see how much has changed. But I do like the anticipation building.
I want to be clear. The option to binge still exists. You can do exactly what I'm going to do with WandaVision, which is watch it all at once.
Yep.
Now that it's over. I know there'll be people out there that are like, well, how am I supposed to dodge social media that long? It's like, I don't know. How do people who want to not watch all 10, 13, 20 episodes of a show supposed to dodge spoilers when somebody sits down and watches them all in one go and then starts leaking crucial images from the series because they've watched it all and at a pace that almost nobody could do? Because they're all out at once, then somebody's going to be like, well, you know people out there are going to go, oh, I'm going to watch them all in a marathon session. And now within maybe 8 hours of an entire season dropping, you have massive spoilers on Twitter.
Is it that hard to avoid spoilers? Like, is it really that hard? Like, I know nothing about Mandalorian Season 2. I want to watch it. I haven't watched it, but I know next to nothing about it. Because if I see something about Mandalorian Season 2, I'm like, scroll past. I don't know.
Or you mute
Yeah.
the hashtag that involves the show, so you block the majority of the conversation. Or you make Twitter lists that don't involve people that like review or talk about television regularly. Or you stay off social media long enough to then partake in the media yourself.
That's too crazy.
Again, this is not nearly the hot take it would have been in episode 2 or 3 when I think this was like a lot more debated. At this point now, people have accepted like, yeah, the show really needed its room to breathe. So it would have been wrong to have released it all at once. But talking about Mandalorian Season 2, and well, Season 1 as well, Baby Yoda, nowhere near the phenomenon that it was if those shows drop all at once.
So
it would have been a big deal. Okay, it's a cute Baby Yoda, right? Fine. I'm not saying it would have been nothing. But the fact that every week was like, ooh, what's Baby Yoda going to do this week? Just built this groundswell of support, and you don't get that if you drop a whole season or a whole series at once.
I actually disagree with you, Chris. Let me tell you why. Hold on to your butt if you can believe it.
He's just disagreeing with everyone in this panel right now.
I disagree that it is like not as much of a relevant take in a way because of WandaVision, but this is the way Disney Plus does this now. They're going to continue doing it. It's going to keep coming up. It's a pretty big debate, and it's a big difference between them and like Netflix. And I think I want to say, I'm going to look really dumb if I don't know this. I thought Hulu did this with like some of their shows like Handmaid's Tale, where they do it like a week after week.
They do. And
I think that's great. And so I think it is a hot take. That's where I disagree. Where you're like, it's not as good. I think it is still pretty good. I think it's still pretty relevant. And I had something else I was going to say, but I forgot. But I just want to make sure that I got out that I think it's a good point.
Can I let go of my butt?
Yes.
Thank God.
I have a relatively, I want to think it's a hot take related to this.
Wait, I'm not done with Chris's. So I just wanted to say it goes beyond like preference. Like people can have preferences and that's fine, but I think they should be forced to experience TV because I think it will benefit them whether they like it or not. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
You're
Right.
forced to experience it, or forced to experience it in the way you
whether
want.
or not they want to binge it.
Oh.
Just being like, well, fine, that's great for you. We're going to release it every week. We don't care what you want because this is ultimately going to be a better experience.
That's what I was going to eventually boil it all down to was it should be at the creator's discretion.
Mm-hmm.
If they feel like their show benefits from it or they just really want to capitalize on this one big burst of support and they want to dump a season at once, that's fine. But they shouldn't feel beholden to a fan base because they demand to have it all at once.
Yeah, and really, if you want to do it all at once, just watch it all at once when it's over. Like, it's not that hard. I don't know.
Imagine what this would have done to Lost.
Oh, it would have been terrible.
Had it just been all out at once.
I mean, and again, I think the thing I focus on so much is, especially because people like to talk about it, the fact of you can talk about a 30-minute or an hour episode, depending on the length of the show, the fact that you can talk about that, what happened that previous week, and then what you think is going to happen the upcoming week, as opposed to, well, I've only watched episode 5, so I think what's going to happen here. Well, I've already watched episode 6, so I can't tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it breaks down so much of this social bonding that comes out over TV, which happens a lot, I think.
Yeah.
So
Because the biggest shows of the last year are WandaVision, for sure, Mandalorian, for sure, The Last Dance. These are all like cultural phenomenons.
even back to Game of Thrones had that too.
Game of Thrones, same way, where it's, and like you said, the Breaking Bad example is a good one. Like, imagine like watching Ozymandias and then clicking the next episode button and just being like, all right,
No,
here we go.
like my jaw was on the floor after that. I would not have, like, it would have lost all impact. Just be like, well, I wonder what happens next. Like, it's just different.
And there are both really triumphant and gut check moments from episodes where I've seen people, after the episodes are all done, whether it's immediately or maybe years later when someone's coming through them, then they're like, man, imagine like having to wait a year to watch the next episode, like when the next season starts or something. I'm like, yeah, but that's kind of its own experience. Like, I get there's a bit of an agony angle to it, but in some way, like, we're both, me and Shaun are both eagerly anticipating Haikyuu season 4. I could watch it in Japanese right now, but I want to watch it with the dub because that's how we've done it to this point. I really like the dub overall. So we're waiting, and I'm actually anticipating it, and I'm eager to watch it because of that. I could turn it on at any moment right now, but then that gratification would fade. So it's just like, just give it time. I know everything is so instant and so rapid in its delivery now, but like, maybe that little bit of space to breathe is good.
That's a pretty hot take. And I think what I'm realizing is we have to change the way that we judge the hot takes, because chances are we're going to agree, I would say more often than not, on the hot take. But I think it's because we're reasonable people. I think society at large would not agree that they should be forced to not be able to binge. But, too bad.
Do you remember in the 90s, it was an event. A season-ending cliffhanger was an event. It was a holy shit, what is going to happen? Who Shot Mr. Burns on The Simpsons was a huge deal. Marketing tie-ins, everyone talked about it over summer. The end of Star Trek called The Best of Both Worlds, when Picard got turned into a Borg. Like, holy shit, everyone was on edge who watched that show over the entire summer, waiting to see what would happen. Those things were like cultural things that happen, and now without that type of anticipation, it just doesn't build the same way.
Now, I will say you still get that
You
in
still
a way
can,
because
yes.
it's the season.
Yeah,
But it illustrates the point. Waiting and building that anticipation makes it better, helps you savor it.
I think so. I think it helps it waft.
And before we get to yours real quick, the old mechanism of television where it was sort of serialized and, like you said, you could drop in, drop out, I actually think hurt shows in the late 90s and about most of the 2000s, a pretty decent show like a Burn Notice, where it's like client of the day for most of the episode and maybe like a kernel that ties everything together at the beginning or the end. And it's like, well, in today's streaming society, you would almost want to produce more shows like that because people are just going to fly through it anyways, right? So like, why bother crafting a special ending to episode 6 when everybody's just going to jump to episode 7 anyways? Like, why bother? So I think you're setting a dangerous precedence that way.
So my hot take blends right into that. I actually, done right, I really prefer episodic stuff that doesn't tie together, when you can kind of jump in and jump out. Something that, even like Bob's Burgers nowadays. I mean, in the right place.
Wow.
I like. No, don't get me wrong.
You shouldn't have said the thing, Shaun.
I just fucking said I think we're going to agree a lot.
Yeah, you
No,
messed
okay.
up.
I'm saying I'm not saying it's the only thing. I wish it was the only thing that existed. I like having the cliffhangers. I like having the one that builds on a long story arc. That's great. I do enjoy it. But I think that's underutilized. Stuff like Bob's Burgers is one of my favorites. That is absolutely an episodic show. Like, they have a little bit of continuity that runs in between it, but you can just jump into relatively any episode and get what's going on. And I like that ease of it. It's just kind of an easy, relaxing television to watch, as opposed to having to be on the edge of your seat the entire time.
I will say, because I think Shaun's going to take a more extreme position on this than I am, I don't entirely agree, but I do think that both should exist. I think there's this tendency to be like, well, all the masterpiece shows are the ones that don't do this, and that's fine, but there is still something to be said for something like a How I Met Your Mother, before it drove itself off a cliff, where it's like, I can watch any episode from these 10 seasons and just kind of tune in and be entertained. Maybe I'm not super invested, and I don't think it's masterpiece television, But sometimes you want that like comfort food version. You don't need I can't watch Breaking Bad every day of my life either. I need something that's like a palate cleanser.
It helps with that. If you want to go back and have fuzzy memories of it, or just like be entertained by it. How I Met Your Mother is a great example of that. Simpsons is a great example of that. Just shows that don't have to follow this huge story arc to get what's going on. Like if you jump into the middle of a Breaking Bad episode, you're like, oh shit, what happened in the episode before? What happened? Has this happened yet? Like you try to piece it together, as opposed to just, hey, I want to watch this for a half hour.
I actually thought about it because my first response is going to be a little bit more like Chris's. Yes, I suppose for Bob's Burgers and whatever. No, I actually completely disagree.
Uh-oh.
I think in every case, it hurts a show to not have any continuity. And, a good example, I think personally it's a good example. You both won't. Friends surprisingly had a lot of stuff where it was syndicated. It was kind of designed to jump in and jump out at any point. But there was always like, who's with who now? Ross has a son. There's a monkey. And what that does is it makes the episodes matter. And so when something happens in one with Bob's Burgers, I remember there was one where like they were really struggling for like a summer event that usually brought in a lot of money. And then, something happened and like they were able to bring in more. And it's like, cool. That doesn't like matter. Nothing I saw matters and will have any impact. And so because it doesn't matter, it just feels kind of meaningless.
But the point is to be entertained, to laugh. That's the only thing. It doesn't have to have an impact.
But so I think that's the fundamental point is like, I disagree. I think like The Office, one of the biggest things that bothered me, there was one where like there was a big shakeup and Michael was going to go off and start his own business. And you were like, whoa, this is really cool. It lasts maybe 3 episodes.
It was a 5-episode arc maybe. And it was, I think
most.
And
it was over. And you're like, what? Why? Why did we even go there? And you could have done it and you could have still had him do his own thing had it been funny, which is the point, which I agree with you. But like had more meaning to the stuff.
But even The Office had more overarching plots development than something like Simpsons or Bob's Burgers.
Oh yeah, and I agree. Yeah, with some of the relationships and
I
like
mean that they definitely had an overarching thing, but it also was episodic. So I mean that's a good example of kind of a little bit of both. I'd say, but
yeah, I mean, like Simpsons, what do you do? It's been on for like almost. How do you do continuity?
I mean,
just got renewed for seasons 33 and 34.
But you can do like a little bit, and sometimes they do. Like Ned's wife doesn't.
He's on like his 4th wife by now.
Well, but like exactly,
Yes.
She doesn't die in one episode and then back the next episode.
No, and they have a little of that.
That stuff is so much more meaningful to me than like no continuity. So that's why Chris and Tech Guy, friend of the show, Tech Guy, both like Burn Notice. I don't think I'll ever be able to get into it because that structure of no matter what happens in one, we need the beginning of the next one to basically be a fresh slate. I can't get behind it. I don't enjoy it. And when Justified stopped doing that in season 2, it became a much better show. I think almost everybody agrees with that.
I think it's got to be comedy is the only way that it works.
Yeah, as I say, the point I was going to chime in with was it's like genre specific. Because you can have a drama that doesn't rely heavily on continuity. If you have a drama that's like spinning its wheels and is accessible to everybody, well, then how can you ever get latched on?
To me, that was House.
I was about to say House.
That was my example of it because I felt like that was supposed to have stakes, but it reset every episode. And I know you loved it.
He seemed to have growth sometimes, and then he was the same guy the next episode.
And that was sort of the point. Like the whole point of the Gregory House character was sort of to be that like sometimes people don't change.
Yeah.
But it sort of made for a frustrating experience, especially by the end. What they did with the very ending, I think, was still pretty good. But the final season and a half, especially once Cuddy left the show, the final season, I don't know. I mean, at a certain point, you're almost like it's torture porn of a different variety, where you're like, this guy is just not going to change. So like, why am I going to keep rooting for him?
Yeah.
With comedies, because like, what's one of our favorite shows? Whose Line Is It Anyway? Now, this is not a sitcom. It's not scripted. It's not the same. But like, I don't tune into Whose Line because I care about any of that stuff. I just want to laugh, right? The vehicle matters. For House, it's tough because it makes sense structurally for each patient each week to be a new mystery for them to solve, and then maybe House changes a little bit over time.
It's not lupus.
with Burn Notice, it's like, okay, like he's getting stuff that's happening to him as he tries to investigate and find out what happened to him. In between, he's taking on these spare jobs and helping people because he's a good person. And it's fun to go along for the ride. So that's like the main point. But if you're not the type of person who responds well to that, it's not really going to hook you because you care more about the 10 minutes that bookend each episode than the 30 minutes in the middle. And that's fine. That's a preference thing. But I don't know. I think comedies are the one exception to the rule because even with The Office or something, I can tune in and be like, oh, this is season 7, episode 4. Like, okay, cool. I don't need to know where I'm at. I don't need to know what's happening. I can just watch it and be entertained. Will I be as entertained as by a show that I can really get myself hooked by? No, but I don't need every show to be that.
I feel that Scrubs is the equalizer of that because it did have kind of an overarching plot. It did have a mystery of the week type of deal with a lot of the patients, but it was a comedy, and I think it worked really well in an episodic type of thing.
And those characters changed a ton.
They
Why
did.
that's still one of my favorite television shows because I haven't seen almost anything that balances humor and profound moments as well as that show does.
Exactly, and that's why I think that works, and you can still jump in and out and also enjoy it watching in a row. So I think that's got the best of both worlds.
So we're not falling in an agreement, really, but like kind of.
But it's almost the most dissension we've ever had in this segment on like 8 or 9 takes, so it means something.
I think the biggest thing that comes with it is that everybody's preferences are so different, so it's hard to have like a concrete. In this topic, I think you can have other topics where we can be more concrete, but this is just so much preference.
Yeah, this one's tougher because it's like, I think it's fair to bring up in Hot Take, but it's not like my first one where I'm like, no, this is wrong. Stop wanting all your shows at once. So I don't need to drop a 26-episode season so you can watch it all in 1 hour.
That's way better.
What do you prefer, like this more serialized version or whatever? I mean, you can definitely make a case on both sides. I see where Shaun's coming from on this, even though I'm kind of closer to Dave on it. That's one where I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
I feel like my hot take has to be TV related now.
It does not.
But I think I'm okay. I'll save my other hot take dealing with Pokemon.
I like the idea that the hottest take of the show is Shaun thinks his has to be TV related and Dave doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the most ascension we've had.
Whoa, easy.
My hot take is I don't really think WandaVision worked super great, and you guys might not have a lot to elaborate on. I'm gonna try to relate it.
Pontificate for us.
Yeah, there are issues with some people had certain reveals didn't mean what they thought they meant, or they wanted more because of kind of what we talked about earlier.
The curse
so much
of
time,
the build. Yep.
So much time for theories, and then it's
so people had these ridiculous, lofty expectations, or so many different theories that there was no way all of them could ever be true. So some people had to be let down, right?
I don't know why everybody thought Mephisto was going to be in it, and I almost kind of did too. But like, they're not going to introduce what could be a main next phase villain.
He could be the
TV
villain of phase 2, which is going to encompass what, 15 plus movies?
Yeah.
So they're not going to burn that on a TV show no matter how many eyes are on it.
Right. So my issue, well, I also have an issue with I hate it. I don't know if I have another example off the top of my head, but you have a thing where like Iron Man comes in, and Iron Man's like, wow, it's like he's starting the age of heroes, and then you find out, no, witchcraft was a thing for hundreds of years in this universe, and you're like, what? And then no one like knew, and how did we not monitor? They're by retroactively doing it. I almost had the same issue with Captain Marvel. They almost break their continuity a little bit. That's not even what I'm talking about either.
No. Before you spin this off, just real quick, I think that's a concern they're going to keep having as they move forward.
Oh, I think so too.
The scaling of stuff, like you said, Captain Marvel was a huge issue. It was a glaring weakness in the 2 final Avengers movies because you're like, well, if she were here, that would solve things. It's the same problem with that version of the Flash of Quicksilver they teased, where, like you said, it's his powers are almost so game breaking that it's like, okay, so like, what am I supposed to care about Winter Soldier?
Yeah,
when
well, right.
This Quicksilver might exist in this world, like,
and X-Men's doing it now. Like Apocalypse, he's the first mutant.
Yeah.
Even though we supposedly mutants at one point in the X-Men continuity were like a fairly new thing. No, he's been in since ancient Egypt, and actually we find out there's a whole civilization of mutants. So nothing's new. It's like so stupid. My problem actually is I didn't think the show worked well enough. It was supposed to be. There's a meta show happening on the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody knows that, even if you don't know anything about it. Dave's on his phone.
The preview.
I was
trailer.
typing my next hot take, folks.
so
I didn't forget it. I will.
My issue was in something. I wish I had a better example in the Watchmen graphic novel. There is a graphic novel in the graphic novel. Like there's a book in the universe of the Watchmen comic that when you read it, it's a thing and it exists, but it's actually really good on its own. It's like the meta comic, but it's just really well done. And yes, it has all these metaphors that provide insight into the main story. It's great. It was pleasant, but it didn't work well enough as like a comedy or show. It was clever. The homages were like, oh yeah, I remember that when I watched I Love Lucy or whatever. So that was pleasing, but nothing really stayed with me because it wasn't all that funny or all that intriguing on its own. And you're really only there to be like, I wonder when a glitch is going to show up, which didn't happen a whole lot. And I just thought as an overall show, it didn't work all that well. It got better at the end. The personal moments were much better too. But I just didn't think it worked well enough.
Shaun doesn't have time for build.
He wants it now.
Right.
Give me now.
There's no foreplay.
No,
it's just climax after climax until you exhaust yourself and lay in a pool of your own jizz on the floor.
And is this fair to say, like, I wanted it when it was a comedy to be as funny as a comedy? Maybe not, because it's trying to do a lot of things, but like I'm watching it, I'm like, this is like fine. And I appreciate what they're doing, but like this doesn't work on its own. And maybe that's my problem. It's not like if I tune in The Office, I laugh, I love it. This didn't work by itself all that well. Like it was fine. They do a little magic show, and it's like...
It feels like a weird dissonance almost. And I haven't seen the show yet, so I can't comment about this thoroughly, but I've seen clips and whatnot. It's almost to me like, how can the characters have that much comedy in them knowing what they're facing that we're building to in the show? Because we know what happened at the end of the last two Avengers movies. We know what actually happened to Vision. And we know something is up at the start of the show. Again, it's not a spoiler to be like, okay, they both can't be here and just fine. So, like, what are we doing? It's like, can they really yuck it up when there's this tragedy looming around the corner? I mean, you can argue they could, but then eventually that's just going to twist itself. I'm not really sure what the approach should have been. It does sort of feel like they weren't necessarily sure how to make this 10 full episodes, and they used this very clever, very well done gimmick to sort of get them past the finish line. I'll have to reserve judgment until I see it myself.
I think the first 3 episodes, they almost entirely play it straight. Almost. Couple weird things, but if you're watching a 30-minute episode and 1 minute is a weird, like, oh, there's something going on here, and then the other 29 are, this is just a sitcom. But it's not a very good sitcom, then it's like, what am I spending my time on? And so when I think back on my experience, it was fine, but it's certainly nothing like, this was so good and I can't wait to watch it again.
I have a general question because I don't know anything about the show. Are you able to or okay with quitting a show? If you're like anticipating something and then it's bad, do you just ditch it? Are you able to do that? I
was going to be like, are you the worst critic in the world or the second worst?
Are you capable of enjoying anything?
Exactly.
I mean, I have a quick little example. Like there was a sitcom that came out that was called Mulaney. It was based on John Mulaney and his comedy writing. I love John Mulaney as a stand-up artist. I think he is one of the best. He made a sitcom. It was terrible, awful. I couldn't get past the second episode. It was that bad.
And it died a horrible death.
It did die a horrible death. But like, I watched 2 episodes and I'm like, I'm done. I really was excited for the show because I thought he was going to be funny. And it wasn't. And I ditched it.
You asked Shaun this question, but I'm going to answer it first.
Do it.
Yeah.
While he thinks about it. I didn't used to be able to, and it was the same with video games. In my 20s, it was like, well, I started this, I've committed 10 hours to it, so I'm going to see it through. And now my time has come to the point where, it's not like I don't have time to play games or watch TV shows and movies and whatnot, but I don't have time for shit anymore. And it depends. If I'm sort of about something, but I feel like it has potential, I'll still stick it out. If I'm not having any fun with it, whether it's a game or a show or whatever, it's out the window. And my tolerance for that's pretty low. Like, I'll usually get things more than 1 episode because you never know with 1 episode, especially pilots. After that, hit the road.
Yeah.
I have a really, it's actually really, I'm kind of glad you asked. I have a really hard time with quitting, especially a video game. But it's why I'm usually very careful in, like, I take reviews really seriously because I know how I am, and if I start it, I'm not going to want to quit it. So if I'm starting it, I want to make sure that it's good going in. TV, I don't care about as much. I mean, half the time I watch TV so sporadically that I'll end up giving up on a show without even like really intending to. It's just like, I never made it back. Maybe one day I will. Movies, same thing. I don't know if I've ever quit a movie.
I mean, that's a little
rare.
easier. That's easier to do because it's 2 hours of your life. It's like, all right, fine, I can sit through this. But like, even if a TV show you've been anticipating, like, oh yes, I can't wait for this next Marvel show to come out, and then it's terrible. Like, are you able to drop it?
If it was Iron, yeah, because I did that with the Iron Fist and Jessica Jones.
Okay.
I didn't finish either of their last seasons. And I love Jessica Jones season 1. I recommend it to everyone. I think it's wonderful. I don't know if they changed showrunners or what happened. It's terrible. Iron Fist, I was just not enjoying it. So, yeah, I did drop it.
And I think there's a difference between games and TV for
Yeah.
me and probably a lot of people, if for no other reason than the level of personal investment. Because like I'm controlling the game, right? Like you almost have to pay damn near full attention to a video game. Whereas if I've kind of fallen off a TV show, I might still stick out a season, even if it's on in the background when I'm like doing laundry or something else. So like I'm watching it, but I'm not super invested. But I'll see it through, and maybe it improves, and I get hooked again. A game, it's kind of all or nothing. Like it either grabs me or it doesn't. So kind of like Shaun, I don't just pick up a game on a whim now and just be like, oh, a Journey, let's try that out and see what it's like. Like I'm not gonna go in blind because I don't want to get invested for no reason.
I can't think of the last game I started and was like, I'm not enjoying this, and I quit. There's one, and it was Final Fantasy Type 0 Typo. I got through a level. And I was at the very end, and I died, and I didn't know why I died, and I was very frustrated, and they were like, guess what? That checkpoint that you thought you had, no, you do the whole level over if you die completely. And I was like, no, I don't. You're going back to the store. I'm done.
Yeah.
I was infuriated.
I can think of 2 fairly recently that I dropped because I was like, nope, this game's terrible. And Mass Effect Andromeda was one of them because fuck that.
And that's an example of one that I should have quit.
Yes.
But I was like, I'm already here.
And I was like, the first trilogy is so good overall. Like it has its flaws, but damn near perfect otherwise. So like it has to get better. It was almost like Stockholm syndrome. Like I'm gonna keep going with this because I'm sure it's gonna turn a corner, and you're like 30 hours, and you're like, the other shoe's gonna drop eventually, and the credits are rolling. I'm like, after the credits, I think
Post-credit
this is gonna improve.
And sometimes I'm glad I finished a game. There are some games where Nier is a good example. I thought the first half was like, it was okay. And then by the end, I was like, wow, I am moved right now. I'm so glad I stuck with it. Andromeda, had I quit it, I would have been fine. It turns out.
So I have one last final hot take.
Okay.
It's related to TV. Shaun, you had mentioned theories earlier. Like theories in TV shows, how they build.
Sure.
So hopefully this builds on both of your points because this has to do with the episodic
Sure hope
release.
so. It's a lot of build up.
So I have a hot take. Fan theories are fantastic. I think they're great, need to happen, builds engagement. However, people need to stop getting mad when those theories don't come true. You didn't write the show. The creators did. Stop getting angry because your dream didn't come through.
Can I cherry pick your hot take?
Yeah.
I still want to talk about yours. I just want to bend it to my own whims for just a moment. Shaun, the Pokemon games are never going to be what you want them to be. Fucking stop. Have you seen the trailers for the Diamond Pearl remake? Have you seen
didn't
the
write it.
Arceus one? I'm sorry to all the Pokemon fans out there. I understand the type of story you want. I think it'd be awesome if they do it. It's getting pretty clear they're not going to fucking do it.
I know.
So either stop playing them or get in line. All right, anyways,
but
TV.
I'm still going to come out and be like, here's my outtake in like 6 years.
Yeah.
Same fucking Pokemon.
Yep.
So Dave, first of all, it's not really a hot take.
I mean,
I do
people
wanna
get
judge-
really angry when it doesn't come true. When they're like, yes, this is what's going to happen. And then they go a different direction. It's like, how could they do this?
Yeah, okay.
It happens a lot.
Let me think about that. The thing is, it's hard for me because on the surface, I want to agree with you. I hate it when fans get entitled. But there are some things like if a show teases something that is so obvious and would be so cool, and then they don't do it, kind of like a spit in the face, which is almost what Marvel just did in WandaVision.
How I Met Your Mother did.
Yeah, right, exactly. So that when it's a spit in the face, I don't like that. And then there are other times where I guess this kind of fits the same thing, but like Game of Thrones. There were a ton of theories, and they were like, guess what? We're not going to do your theories. We're going to do like a horrible other direction completely. Not like a spit in your face where they dangle one thing and then they bait it, but just bad. So it didn't conform to my theories in a way, but more problematic was it was just shit.
Well, there is a difference between it didn't fit to my theory versus bad. Like Game of Thrones ending, I would say objectively bad. It broke the spirit of everything. How I Met Your Mother, same deal, broke everything. However, if they just go a different direction that's not objectively against the spirit of the show and it's just not what you fulfilled, I don't understand the anger.
I think this is pretty like closely aligned with things being predictable versus too out of left field. This is sort of the Star Wars conundrum that we spoke about with both of the last two movies in the new trilogy, where it's like people, when you plant these seeds, people can pick up on them and then like, oh, cool, this is kind of the direction we're heading. Sometimes that causes people to label a show or a movie as too predictable then because they could see those twists coming, and then to fight against that culture, the answer sometimes is to then be like, oh yeah, we'll see this coming, so it's so obscure that nobody can see it out of left field. So it's kind of like the theory angle but to an extreme, where it's like somebody's going to probably see something coming. There's so many people consuming media that there's probably going to be some person's Twitter that predicts something accurately way in advance, right? And then after the fact it's going to go viral because people are going to go, hey, this person said this back in June. To try and avoid those, sometimes I think people do too many backflips and ruin their own creative spirit of their piece.
It takes a deft hand, because if you have a big battle coming up, and I wish I had like a really specific example where expectations were subverted and it was like, why did you do that? Like, especially when it's like, here's the show or movie that I'm here for. You've gotten me. Layton, all the Layton games are a great example. Okay, I've spent 30 hours on this game. I've accepted that it's time travel. Like, okay, like that's fine. You got me to this point where you've said it so much, you've reasoned it. Okay, time travel is possible. Then in the last hour, in this case, Dave, they built an underground London that's identical to above ground London. Your twist to explain why it's not actually time travel is less believable to me now than if it had just been time travel. I was willing to accept time travel. A city underground, I believe that less. And I was already on board. If it comes halfway through, that's something you can deal with. 11th hour twisting expectations, it's not needed and it's just stupid.
Yes, and that I guess goes along the line with the against the spirit of the show.
But like the Red Wedding, that's a lot of fans were angry because they were like, I wanted King Rob to go kill all the Lannisters. That's where they were headed. He just got stabbed at a wedding. But artistically, for the show and for all of these things, it was the right call.
Yeah.
It's better because they did that. So it's like, it's tough.
So, well, I mean, anger that King Rob didn't happen is like, well, that sucks. That's the angle of the story. And it's completely believable within that universe. It makes total sense.
Oh, yeah.
So anger over something like that is like, come on, dude. Like, just go with the ride. I don't, maybe I'm weird. I don't try to predict a lot of things because I enjoy when things happen, twists happen, the ride that comes with a show. I don't want to guess almost sometimes.
Yeah, I've never really... So Dave has himself always been has often said like he's not a very creative person.
I'm a simpleton.
So like he's definitely gonna be that way. But I'm kind of the same too, and I feel like I have a pretty creative brain. But when I'm watching these type of shows, for the most part, I don't mind trying to predict things or see where we're headed or having like certain smaller theories.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some folks that are like, it's episode 6 of a 15 episode season, and they're like, all right, well here's how these other arcs are all gonna play out for the next 9 episodes, and I'm like, what?
How?
I can see why it's entertaining. I'm not saying maybe people shouldn't do it, but I'm like, you're only setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah.
It's like shooting too big. So now if this doesn't come through, now you're like, well, that's the way they should have done it, or I can't believe they didn't go that way, or like whatever they come out with feels inferior to your own version. It's like, God, you're just setting yourself up for disaster by not. So I'm a wrestling fan, right? A lot of the idea is just kind of letting yourself go along for the ride.
Suspending disbelief.
Yeah, because sometimes the storytelling is not going to be the best. Frankly, it's shitty a lot. But a lot of times it's like maybe the end result's going to be worth it. So you just kind of go along with it for a bit and then you hope it pays off. The opposite is almost this now, where it's like, do you not trust the original people doing the show to tell a compelling story so much that you have to invent it yourself? And then when it doesn't happen, you're just automatically disappointed. I just don't get that perspective.
There has to be a way to word your hot take to where it meets all of these, and I haven't found it yet. But like in Haikyuu, the team, spoilers, they lose sometimes. And I love that they lose because it's a gut punch and it sucks. And had you asked me, I would say, yeah, rather I would have had them win. But not really. This kind of goes back to preferences that we started the show with. Sometimes you got to be forced into things you don't want because now it's so much more enjoyable because you know kind of like anything's on the table. Like they can lose. They're not just going to be guaranteed to win. And that makes it super like harrowing experience. Now, if in the season finale, the whole team got food poisoning, they didn't even play the game, and it flashes forward 40 years, and they're attending the funeral of one of the guys who did nothing with his life. That's less good of subverting.
That's a bad ending to a show.
Yeah,
isn't it?
I think so.
What a deep and compelling twist.
This is gonna be. You're gonna hate me for this. Sometimes I have a hard time getting into something like superhero movies because I know it's gonna be like superhero is born. Trials, tribulations, victory. Like, I know it's about the ride. I know it's about the journey, and that's the enjoyment of it. But it's like, I know where the end point is sometimes, and it's tough to jump on those sometimes.
That helps, because there are some that in the movies that we're trying to recommend to you, some are like that.
Especially the origin movies. But
Yeah.
some of them are still good despite that.
Yeah.
But they also throw in their share of twists in the later versions especially.
And some you will not see coming. And in some, like, the villains just, like, win, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. And
Well-
that's a tough balance to do because you're always like, well, I don't want to see the predictable, all right, hero triumphs. And then the villain wins, and you're like, but the villain can't win.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck.
And you know what? To me, I think both of you agree with me on this. Who knows about the viewers? Sometimes if something happens that you know is coming, if it's been built to properly, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's a principal moment with Thor's hammer in the MCU that obviously comes to mind on this. But there's other moments too, like when the team gets revenge. I mean, if you're going to watch the show, Dave, the results aren't going to matter as much. When the team gets revenge in the second season, you're pretty sure it's going to happen. Like, there's no way they'd make them lose twice, right? Like, that's one gut punch is great, but there's no way they're going to go through all this work of this entire 25 episode season and get stomped again, right? So when it happens, you're not like on the edge of your seat wondering if it's going to happen or not. But the payoff was worth this entire journey, so it doesn't matter that you know what's coming.
Yeah.
You just love that it's happening.
That would have been such a deep and artistic twist, though.
And I'm going to spoil something for you guys. I don't think either of you are going to care. Even, I mean, you definitely not, Dave, even Chris. So
pigeonhole
Goku goes Ultra Instinct. He finally masters it. He's fighting some fucking space demon.
That's a good way to put it.
And, you know, Ultra Instinct should be like, okay, he's here. And you're like, all you want is to just be like, maybe having what you want is subverting expectations with Akira Toriyama at this point, because he beats the guy down and he's like, you know what? I'm going to give you a sensu bean. And you're like, there's no way he's actually going to do this because he's done it like 50 times already. It's backfired almost every time. And he does. And it backfires again. And his Ultra Instinct almost loses. And you're like, but this is like the ultimate. And it's just bad. And so, yeah, I guess just to the point, sometimes having those expectations satisfied feels really good, and it doesn't have to be surprising.
I'll have you know, you were not worried about spoilers, which is good because I didn't understand a goddamn word that just came out of your mouth.
But it doesn't
Nothing.
matter. Ultimately, I think the main point is just that expectations are fine. And if the show's really good, it doesn't need to rely on gimmick twists to keep the audience hooked. That's not to say they can't exist, but it doesn't have to be a show of twists.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be an M. Night Shyamalan movie because it's dependent on the twist being the crux of the plot.
Yeah.
It's just good.
Mm-hmm.
And if it throws you a curve occasionally, if anything, it hooks you more because you're like, oh shit, like Shaun said, with Haikyuu, season 1, you're like, oh man, like, didn't think we were heading that direction. I want to see how they rise from this next.
And like Winter Soldier, Dave, probably my favorite Marvel movie. Not even probably, it is.
I've heard.
You know, the ending, are they really going to assassinate like half the population? Like, no, you know that's not going to happen. But there's like there's a B plot that you don't know how it's going to resolve, and you are kind of worried about it. And so as long as they can bring some element, I think, of unpredictability, it can work. But yeah, I mean, to some extent, it's a story. Like,
I'm going to throw in one more.
Okay.
One more show that Dave hasn't seen.
One quick thing, one point. They
Sure.
don't actually. Superman didn't give a shit about killing about 300 million people, though, if you remember.
What?
The Superman Zod, like a whole bunch of people on the planet died. So
Well-
kill half the population. It could happen.
Well, especially when Superman throws like a tanker in a city, and then he does like his heroic pose, and I'm like, "What, dude?
Yeah.
There are people here.
You're not even trying." And that was the tone deafness of why I hate that movie.
Yes.
We can
We've
move on.
talked
whole
about it
universe.
before. I just
Yeah.
thought you
Yeah.
mentioned that no, people can't die. Well, maybe they can.
Yeah.
And there's a shot of him with a stained glass mosaic in the background with Jesus in it. And you're like, well, Jesus didn't kill 300 million people, so maybe the parallel doesn't work as well as you think it does. Legend of Korra. I really want to like that show more than I do. I'm not saying I dislike it. My expectations weren't really anything. What was unsatisfying to me is the end of almost every season, primarily because Korra, who is supposed to be a much better fighter than Aang ever was, consistently gets her ass kicked over and over again over the course of the season, and then usually finishes things with one hit. So it's like we build, and again, if it wasn't for this combat prowess that was established in the beginning, like, she's an expert fighter, like, she's used to these elements, she's mastered 3 of them effectively, like, she's really good, right? She's nowhere near where Aang was, where he had to learn all this stuff, and it was a journey for him, right? But it feels like every time, especially the 3 main villains of the first 3 seasons, it's basically like one fluke thing happens and she wins.
But I will say, season 3, they at least do. She's poisoned, and she still puts up a hell of a. You finished season 3, right? Please tell me. Okay. You said first 3, but then I was like, oh my god, did I just spoil something?
No.
So I can buy that one, and I think that gets through your problem. But we've talked about season 1, Dave. So season 1, she loses all her powers. Oh my god, this is crazy. What are they gonna do in season 2? Don't worry. By the end of the episode, 2 minutes of screen time later,
Yeah.
she gets all the powers back from Deus Ex bullshit. I can't even really tell you what happened.
And we know why that happened because of the show not supposed
Sure.
to have a second season. Like, there's legitimate reasons for it. I don't hold that against the show, but it still hurts it overall. Like, fair or not, I'm still just kind of like, man, like, why aren't we satisfied with the way that these conclude?
But I will say in season 3, so maybe we disagree, because season 3, Dave, she has poison in her system, so she beats the bad guy. So there's some predictability.
After getting her powers back.
Yep. 2 seasons ago.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So,
Timeline.
but she has poison in her limbs, and the final shot, she's in a wheelchair attending the graduation of her friend, and you just see her just like crying to herself, and that's the end of the season. So that I thought worked really well. There's an element of bittersweetness that makes it compelling.
And I like that. It's just after having an antagonist basically shit on her the entire season, it builds up to literally one move that takes him down. And it's like, to me, I love the ending of the original Avatar, because when Aang goes full Avatar state in that fight, he whoops, what the fuck's the Fire Lord's name? Ozai. He whoops Ozai's ass for like 5 minutes, and it's cathartic. You're like, this guy's been a pain in the ass and an evil bastard the whole show. I want to see him get his ass kicked for a while. I earned that by going to this point.
I love that fight, but then I have problems with how he gets his powers back in that one. So it's like, maybe
That's fluky too.
as much as I love those creators, like, they just can't quite seem to nail big time finales. Although all the rest of season 1's, series 1's finales were pretty good.
I wish you would watch the Ozark and not the Ozark. I'm sorry, the Orville, and see a good payoff of a build up to a fight that pays off excellently well.
See, and that sounds great, and I probably will at some point. You only watch like 3 shows though, so if you watch more shows, we could have like more back and forth.
I've really
But I'm like,
expanded
Dave, I have like 50 shows you can watch. You're like, well, I have 2.
Well, Bob's Burgers built to a good end of an episode, and I'm like, no, not Bob's Burgers again. Damn it.
Dave, you gotta come on. Like, you gotta watch more stuff. But you know what? You're playing more games at least. So
Yeah,
I'm
one
not
thing
gonna
at a
do
time.
too much shit.
One thing at a time.
There was years ago you weren't watching movies. All you were doing was having kids. That's it.
And it doesn't take that long, especially for you.
Well, you
Not
know,
a lot of involvement there.
actually, there's a lot of time when they're babies. So now they're not babies. So
No,
much.
I
It's a
mean,
lot easier.
just creating kids, not a lot of
Conception.
investment.
Hey, I've got a long investment in that.
I don't think.
What
he-
does that mean?
It's not
What
10
you're
seconds.
saying.
What does that mean?
Dave has been taking.
I
those
don't want to
pills.
assume, so I'm just going to ask you, what does that mean?
I just really like non sequiturs and confusing the shit out of you.
Dave has taken Extends pills.
Yeah. Consult your doctor if conception takes 16 weeks.
That's a good
I
place to
think- I
end.
think
That's
that's
great.
it.
That's forget
that's
it.
the tagline.
We're done.
That's,
We're
that's
done.
the send it to the cold open.
Yep.
All right, so that's the end of this episode. We did not get to Persona 5. You may have noticed. Didn't talk about it in the beginning, but we probably will next week. I don't know. Life's hard. Dave's here.
Also, I'm here in
Turns
town.
out I had plenty of energy, so we probably
Yeah, we
could
could have.
done it.
I
But
knew
you
we
know
could
what?
have. Knew we could have.
You know what? I think this is now something that we're going to just have to throw at you consistently because this is like the third time in the last 10 episodes where we've been like, I don't know, I'm kind of tired, or I got shot too, or blah, blah, blah. And it turns out you would have been fine.
Yeah.
And I think the show brings the energy out of you even if you don't have it to begin
Probably
with.
should.
We
I'm
also-
a professional.
we
We're
also
all
just-
professionals.
We also just had a show about not, paying off fans' expectations. We continually do not pay off their expectations of Persona review.
That's correct.
That's true.
But
Is
we're
it a good way
building
or
the
a bad way?
anticipation. Now they have to wait another week, so they're going to be anticipating it even more, right?
Yeah, I guess you can wait.
Wink.
You can wait till the end of our show, all of our shows, and just binge all of them. That's what you could do.
Yeah. It won't
It'll only
long
take you
at all.
about 6 weeks
Mhm.
of pure straight through.
God, so many episodes now. All right, that's the end of this show. In between episodes, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com, or at youtube.com/objectionnetwork for new videos 7 days a week. See you next time.